Hello guys, my name is Dr. Varun and you are watching Chlorophyll classes only on YouTube. This is another day for the 12th class students and we are doing evolution or the origin of life chapter from the CBSE 12th NCERT biology. Well, when we are doing this topic, there are a lot of things that are coming up. First of all, the major problem that student facing is what is the right chronological order to study this chapter. Well, we're gonna be learning in this the right chronological order. In the first video or the first part, we see the origin of universe and how the planet Earth came and how it became sustainable to have a life on it. I hope you have gone through it. If not, go check it out, the prior video to this video. Coming up to the today's topic, we're going to be seeing that how the life form. Let's just start with it. So origin of life is a very interesting concept and a question in itself, because to date we don't know what is the real origin of life, but we give the theories, and on the basis of what evidence we have got, we associate with it. The first thing that we all know that everything is being created by what? God, right? So the first theory is the story of special creation. It was like for different religion, different person has given it. Like for example, in Christianity, it was given by Father Soros, and he stated that there are certain supernatural powers which forms life and the life is unchanged. And this statement itself is very controversial, because we know that continuously the evolution is taking place and the organism is changing themselves. So the things are being changing with the period of, and it also says that it remains as such. If it remains as such, then the fossils which we see of the dinosaur means they were not even present, these species. Even the dodo bird, which is the recent extinction that takes place, it shouldn't have taken place if the things has been as such. Means these extinctions, these things has been taken prior to also. In itself, this just led us to the like debunking that this is not the right theory, but they say it like that. Let's just go towards it. It says that in Christianity that there is a Genesis chapter in the Bible which stated that the God created this whole thing in 6 days from a material called Materna Prima. So first day he created heaven and the earth. Second day he created sky and the sea. Third day he created dry lands and the plants on it. Fourth day it created sun, moon, stars. Then fifth day it created fishes and fowls. Fowls are the birds. And the sixth day it created animals including human. And it says that according to this, the earth is 4,000 year old only. But the evidences also shows that it's not true. And the first man is the Adam, which is made from the clay. Clay is the soil. Okay, so clay. And the first woman is formed from the 12th rib of the Adam. Okay, then according to that same way, if we go to the Indian mythologically, in Hindu sculptures, we have seen that god of creation is the Lord Brahma, and he created different forms of lives which you see around yourself with his different body parts. And the first man is supposed to be Manu, and the first woman is supposed to be Shraddha. Okay, this is the story of what? Story of special creation. And this story even go forward to that the theory of catastrophism, which is given by Crucifer. He says that after a certain period of a gap, the world comes to all destruction and life starts from nothingness again, which means what? That a huge calamitical disaster comes, maybe a big flood or fires or something like that, and almost all the life form goes to be killed. Okay, but later on a new generation of the organisms come up from the inorganic substances. Inorganic substances means this soil, clay, all of these things form the new organisms. Okay, so this is what theory of catastrophe, which on this basis only this we have seen that after a certain period of a time, a big changes used to come, natural changes used to come. Like if anyone knows that 2012 movie has a similar kind of concept only. Okay, coming up to the next, that is a theory of spontaneous generation or abariogenesis or autogenesis. The name itself says that it says that the organisms spontaneously generate from the surrounding mediums. Okay, means like for example, it says that there is a nothing called as that from where it comes from, spontaneously they form from the non-living organisms. So abiogenesis means from the abiotic substances biological things has been generated. Autogenesis means self-generating, means they don't need anyone, they just keep on forming more and more. But in reality we know what we know that all the organisms comes from pre-existing organism. So major question is there, who formed the first organism? So they say that natural surrounding non-living thing itself will form the something. So it is believed by a lot of scientists of that time era when the science was in the time of its development. And it also is like there was one more theory, that is a theory of panspermia. In panspermia it says that these molecules or the spores of the living organisms on the planet Earth comes from the other planet through the meteors. Okay, so you know there are meteors, asteroids are there, so they came on planet Earth. With them only what the life form came. If you want to understand this thing and the evolution better, I would suggest you a movie called Evolution to go and watch. They had a concept of panspermia in it and how the quick evolution is taking place over there. So I would really suggest you to go through, watch it, so where you will understand the story more better. But this thing is experimentally, this concept has been disapproved. Okay, not about the panspermia concept. That thing is true that there are certain molecules, because we have analyzed certain asteroids and meteor which containing what it is containing certain molecules. Okay, that we will learn it later what are those molecules. But the organic molecules we have seen on them, which stated that the similar kind of things might have been formed earlier on the planet Earth also. Coming up, that how these theories has been disapproved, that the spontaneously nothing generate. Okay, that has been by, and how they actually flick before to go it, like what they actually have seen that this happens. They have seen that in the river Nile or the water, they see that certain frogs are being formed, certain fishes are being formed. From there these fishes and frogs comes, no one knows, but the real answer is the eggs and all the other things that might be there. So these scientists used to believe that spontaneously in the river, clay, water, or the bed or the sand forming these things. Let's just try to disprove what they are thinking. So the first thing is the theory of biogenesis. In theory of biogenesis says that life comes from pre-existing life. So hominus vivum ex vivo. It was experimentally disapproved, that the abiogenesis theory, by three different scientists, that is the Pasteur, Spelling, and the Reddy, and independently they did it. So first we will see the Reddy experiment. Reddy did what? He took 3 jars, okay, put a rotten meat into it. Okay, rotten meat will attract what? Flies. Okay, rotten meats, like first jar it is open, second jar he covered with the muslin clothes, which is a very fine cloth, and the last one with the parchment paper, which is also very transparent paper. So he see that in both of them the flies comes closer to this area. Okay, but in the first the flies actually reaches in this area, eaten this and whatever they did it. In the second and third, they see that no flies has been gotten inside of it because of the covering of the lid. Now, after a certain period of time, they see that in the first jar, there are a lot of maggots, means baby flies are there. But in second and third one, there was egg present on the top of this thing, but not inside any flies, they are not present. Which states that the life comes from pre-existing life. That means when the one fly will come and lay the egg, then only what will happen? Then there will be a new babies will be formed, new life will come. Here egg laid up, but no new life came because the resources were not there. Okay, so this thing is the first point, Reddy experiment, that it never comes from the dead, decaying or the inorganic substances, it comes from the pre-existing ones. Okay, then comes the Spelling experiment. Spelling experiment is what? It is experiment where he petrified of the meat, means he checked whether the meat, if you will rot the meat, how the microbes will be doing that, and that he tried to like remove, like he said that life won't come over here, the microbes won't gonna be generated from these meat if I will boil, cook and seal the meat in the airtight container. Same thing like the earlier one. Okay, so this thing he did it. And the last is the Pasteur experiment, which is also called as swan neck flask experiment. In swan neck flask experiment, what he did, he took a this kind of flask which has a swan kind of neck. So you know that swan has this look like this. So swan has what? This kind of neck. So same this swan neck is there. He did what? He took the broth. What is the broth? It is a water, sugar, water, and the yeast content, and he boiled it. Okay, so it leads it to what? It leads to the multiplication of the yeast. Now what happened? He see that in one case he did this he found what, that no of the microbes that can feed on the yeast and this broth is what is the food for the microbes, they're able to reach here because of the swan neck. This long it won't be able to travel, so they are being trapped over here. But in the next he did what, he broke this thing swan neck, and now what happened, this thing is opened and all the organism microbes can reach here, and it contaminated the broth, which tells us what, that the for the contamination, if it is being broken up, no new life form can come up over there. So here this thing has been shown up or appeared, that the new life has been only appeared when it is available, when the substance is available to be contaminated by the pre-existing life. Clear with this? The next thing about this is that the last very important theory which you have to remember, that is of the theory of chemical evolution or naturalistic theory or O'Brien-Haldane theory. In this story, first of all, two names were there. One is O'Brien, one is Haldane. So you have to remember O-R and H-E. So he and or. What is it? Why I'm giving this mnemonic? Because O-R, that is O'Brien in Russia, is a Russian scientist who wrote also a book called as Origin of Life, where he explained this theory in 1936. Moving on, H-E, that is H for Haldane, E for England. So he was born in England, but later he came to India and settled in Bhubaneswar, Odisha. Okay, they both together come up with this theory, that is chemical theory. And in this theory, he said that first of all, there was abiogenesis, and after that, it's always and forever a biogenesis. Means what, that first the life came from the inorganic molecules, the simple inorganic molecules which comes together and form a coherent or a particular substance or a molecules. Like remember when we were talking about the first part, in the first part of the chapter, that what happened, that there were certain molecules which comes together and they form what, conservates and microspheres, proteinoids, which we talked about, protobionts. That is what they are talking about. But these protobionts have the capability of reproducing, so they will keep on reproducing. So this thing has been said, and this way it is called as what, it's a chemical evolution. We understand that how this chemical evolution took place is what's the next thing, and from this chemical evolution, what is a biological evolution, which is the major concern for us in this chapter. We will proceed to it. So first is the atomic phase. Atomic phase means that what is the early atmosphere is like. So early atmosphere has a lot of elements which are in their elemental forms, means like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus. And according to their density, they get different layered up, or they get stratified. Means the heavier thing will go towards the center of the earth, the lighter thing would be present on the surface or above the center parts. So this thing we have already done it before also, so the same thing coming over here. Then there will be what, atomic elements forms the molecules and the various other simpler inorganic compounds. So how it happens, these free atoms combines to form molecules and the simple inorganic compounds. Hydrogen atoms were more numerous and reactive in the primitive atmosphere, because you know that initially there was hydrogen and helium only. So hydrogen was there, hydrogen was very reactive, so it reacts with all the oxygen molecules and it forms what, it forms water, leaving no free oxygen in the environment. So that primitive environment was an oxygenic environment, which is what high H positive means, reducing environment. Okay, so there but currently the environment has no hydrogen but of oxygen more, so it is what oxidizing environment currently in which we are living, and another life form has been sustaining. Hydrogen also reacts with the nitrogen and forms the ammonia, NH3. It also reacts with the carbon and form methane. Now, it is believed that the water and the ammonia was the first compound formed in the primitive environment. We understood this thing. Coming upon the organic compounds. Now, in the primitive environment, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen, and the hydrogen atoms were there, but they will be combining with each another and forming in the form of oxide or the nitrites, depending upon what kind of components they are. Water vapors were present, and they also reacts with, like, like that hydrogen reacts with the oxygen atom and forms water, so they are in the form of water vapors. But these water vapors are what happen, they also split up and they form different compounds, or they react with the different compounds forming carbides and the other things. So many things were forming, and similarly they are forming what, methane as the first thing, and then the hydrogen cyanide that has been formed. Basic things, not much to think about it. Then what happened, then there will be torrential rains. Torrential rains means heavy rains, multiple times the rains has been fallen, and as the water goes down, okay, because water condenses in the atmosphere, and once it goes down, because of the hot surface of the earth, it again evaporated. This cycle happened for millions of years until the earth can sustain the water. And that's how what happened, all these substances in the atmosphere that was present, like methane and all those things, they came into what they came, like when the water has been formed, like the big oceans has been formed, okay, these all compounds comes under it. These all compounds are present in the water, and the water is what, it's moving, so it's keep on moving those compounds also. And those compounds, under the effects of the electricity or anything which has been taken, heat or anything that has been taken place at that area where they would be present, they combines together like normal chemical reactions and forms the different types of organic compounds, like simple sugars of ribose, deoxyribose, glucose. You know that how important they are if you have done the biomolecules. Then nitrogenous bases like purines and pyrimidines, amino acids, glycerols, fatty acids, means these are what, the constituents of the human body. And as it is said that external source of energy will be provided. What could be the additional external source of energy for these reactions to form these organic compounds would be, there could be the solar radiations from the UV rays, there could be the energy from the electrical discharge, like by the lightning at that time which might have struck on that surface of ocean, there could be the rays, x-rays, all those things which are coming, because we don't have a ozone layer present over there, we have said that, so those rays are also coming up. Then volcanic eruptions, which produces the heat at that point of a time, because these days we have a lot of volcanoes which are inactive, but earlier they were active. So this all ocean which is rich in the organic matter, Haldane called it what, hot dilute soup or the prebiotic soup. And this becomes a very important part about the what is prebiotic soup, and the similar question has been formed up. So process, you should know that till how we reach to the point of forming the prebiotic soup. Then comes that, okay, Haldane and O'Brien has given us certain information about how the chemical evolution might have taken place, but what is the scientific basis for it that we have started accepting it? That is that in 1953 there was two people, Miller and the Urey, who come up with an experiments where they verified about the chemical evolution. So they made this kind of a setup. In this setup there are different chambers present. So can you see these chambers are there? So these are different chambers which are interconnected with it. So what they did it, they took the simpler molecules that might be present at that point of a time, like there is a water, there is a methane, there is a nitrogen, there is a ammonia, there is hydrogen. So they took it in this chamber. In this chamber, since they can't put the water directly because water was not present in the form of vapors, so what they did, they took a chamber where they boiled the water, and that boiling water act like what, it's act like a what, water vapor, which, like, if you boil it something over here, water vapors will go like this and it reaches over here through this tube. and simultaneously they give what a high voltage electric shock, which is imitating what an electrical discharge in the form of electricity of a volt of 75,000 volts. And if we see that in what uh, what ratio they have formed, that is methane, ammonia and hydrogen, that is 2:1:1. And as they did it, the spark chambers that was connected with another flask with the boiling water provision for, like this we have already tell. Now what happened, they see that they did this whole experiment, and after 18 days of circulating this whole system, okay, they found out that from here they are able, like what happened, that whatever the water is there, it will be discharged and it will come down over here. Means what is water vapor will condensed like the rain form, and it comes over here. So they analyze this thing which is present in this area, the water analyzed in this, and they found what, they found the simpler substances like glycine, aniline and the aspartic acids. And this demonstrated that the similar kind of things might have happened in the primitive environment also, because the same conditions has been replicated. Simultaneously, there were other scientists which simply changed the initial mediums and added the other substances other than this, and they are able to get ribose, hexose, adenine, pigments and fats, which even tells that the similar kind of things are coming up. Now if someone will ask like that, do we have actually happening this thing anywhere else in this on this universe? Yes, that's true. Like when we have seen certain of the panspermia theory, over there we didn't found the spores, but we found the we found the substances which are similar to these kind of simpler organic molecules on the meteoroids and the asteroids, which tells us that the similar kind of experiments must be, or the reactions must be happening at that point of a time. Then the formation, like next comes that, okay, these are the simpler organic substances, how come they become the complex? So we say that in the hot dilute soup, means a prebiotic soup or the ocean that time was present, all of them were aggregated and forms the complex substances. Sugars which were like hexose and all combines together to form polysaccharides. One such polysaccharides would form what? Cell wall. Then we have fatty acid glycerols combines to form fats. Then we have amino acids which are linked to the proteins, because you know that single amino acids like glycine and alanine was there. They comes together and forms what? Protein chains. Nitrogenous base, sugar, nitrogen like purines, adenines were there. Sugar, ribose and deoxyribose were there. They combines to form nucleotide, and later the phosphate also joins to form that. So they forms a nucleoside, and later on they form nucleotides. Nucleosides. And later the phosphates joined and forms what? Nucleotide. Clear? This is about the chemical evolution. Okay, I hope this thing is understood as a story format. Coming upon the biological evolution, that from this, that how come a biologically life came and how it's keep on propagating. Now in the biological evolution, the conditions that is necessary for a life to sustain would be what? Number one is that it is able to reproduce, it is able to replicate. So that is the first thing. There should be a constant supplier of replicators, and the copying of replicator must be subjected to some kind of error and mutation, so that if the environment changes, they can also keep on changing slowly in their form, so that a better adapted to the environment kind of species could be developed. The system of replicators must be required continuous source of energy and a partial isolation from the environment, so that there is no disturbance from the any other species or any other substances. And high temperature of the primitive earth fulfill the requirement for the mutation, because you know that higher temperature means higher mutations. So mutations might have occurred and added more type of organisms. So mutations are good or bad, it's our subjective term, because if the mutations will not take place, slow mutations are good, which help in the adaptations to the changing environment, but a higher rate of a mutations which even change a single individual into something different than its own species, that's not gonna be working it up. then the origin of the protobionts and the ebionts that we're going to be talking about, which I referred to you before also. Here we are coming it up. So what happened, these all the inorganic substances, they came together, and as they came together, they form what? They form protobionts or ebionts, which is, proto means primitive kind of a biological component. Now these protobionts are the molecules which are able to survive outside of the isolated system, in like they don't need any non-living organisms to survive. They are able to survive on its own. And there are two types of protobionts. One is conservates, one is microsphere. Conservates has a problem, microsphere has not that problem. So conservates were found by the operant. So operant did what? He took these organic substances and mixed together. What he mixed the protein and the polysaccharides, and he found what? A conservates kind of substances there, which shows simpler metabolism which is taking place, has a but it do not have the lipid layer present around itself, and the lipid layer is very important for the reproduction purpose, so it's not able to reproduce. Okay, and it does not fulfill the requirement of the precursor of the life. So conservates are of no use. Later what happened, certain other scientists, they mix more organic compounds in the cool water and mixed it first and then put it in the cooling water, and that leads to formation of what? Microsphere. And microsphere has lipids on their surface acting like a plasma membrane, and these are called as what? Proteinoid microsphere, and they can reproduced by simple budding and fission like the bacteria, and they are considered to be a initiator, or might be similar kind of a things, would be the progenitor of the this life on the planet Earth. Now if someone will ask like, okay, these are there, and now how the first cell comes? So it is believed that the first cell might be living in anaerobic conditions, because till now we never said that oxygen came in the environment. No free oxygen is present, so it lives in as an anaerobic respirations. And you know that anaerobic respirations is what give less amount of energy also, so those things we know that. And preferably they will be heterotrophs, they are not able to make their own food, those kind of things won't be there. That's the logic says. Okay, so they made it, they eat the other organisms or the substances present to around itself. So but since the problem would be what? The heterotrophs are dependent on the other of the organisms, but the you know that the energy levels they get would be lesser, as well as the supply of the food for them would be limited, because the chemicals are limited in the environment, and if they are using it up, then who gonna be replenishing the chemicals, right, in the environment, if they are surviving on these chemicals only? Okay, so there is a need for to make their own food. Okay, till how long you will be you will be sustaining your life on delivery guys, Swiggy and Zomato. At certain point of time you need to make your own food in the kitchen, right? So same thing, they felt that all the organisms that we can't sustain like that. If we can somehow make food ourselves from the basic things which are present and get the more energy, that would be better. And the concepts of autotrophs came up. First there was a chemical autotroph, so means they require the chemicals which are present outside. So they took the chemicals, simple chemicals, and then they use what? Their bond energies to break it up, and they form what? Their foods. So they are called chemoautotrophs. They synthesize organic molecules from the inorganic raw materials. Such mode of nutrition is present in some bacteria like iron, sulfur bacteria, etc. till date also. So they are considered to be the primitive chemosynthetics. But soon what happened, the organism felt that we have to develop a molecule. So they developed a molecule called chlorophyll by the combination of simpler reactions, because if you remember I said that they even make the pigments, that they are able to find the pigments also. So the chlorophyll is what? One such pigments which help in capturing the sunlight. The sunlight is coming all the time, so they made the chlorophyll by the simple pigments, and those organisms which has the chlorophylls present in that, they are capable of making the organic substances by the solar radiations, which are the free source of energy. Of course they need carbon dioxide and water from the resources, which carbon dioxide and water is the abundant. Water is abundant, carbon dioxide is also abundant because of the carbon present in the environment. And since there was an N-oxygenic. Oxygen was not released utilizing the hydrogen from the source other than the water they were using it up at that point of a time. But soon what happened? The environment, okay, will forms what accumulation of more carbon dioxide in the primitive environment, the primitive atmosphere, and the development of chlorophyll, okay, resulted in what evolution of the photoautotropic forms, because they are what they are seeing that okay, there is carbon dioxide, there is water, why not we use these kind of things and to form the things. And when they are using carbon dioxide and water, few of them just change themselves, because earlier they were not even using, they are using hydrogen sulfide. So if they're using hydrogen sulfide first, so what happens? Sulfur dioxide or the sulfur will be only released in the environment, right? They realize that soon there will be more carbon dioxide in the environment forming it up. So the organisms over there said that why not we use carbon dioxide, and when they started doing carbon dioxide and the water instead of hydrogen sulfide, they forms what they started forming the oxygen. So understood the chronology. First was the heterotrophs. After heterotrophs, there was chemosynthetas. Then there was photoautotrophers. But in the photoautotrophers, they were not using water. They are using hydrogen sulfide and the substances. They realized that why we are using hydrogen sulfide when the water is more abundant compared to hydrogen sulfide. So they started using water, and you know that water breakdown will release what oxygen in the environment. That is from the photosynthesis chapter from the 11th class. So what happened, that the source of oxygen comes to be the water, and water split and the environment has the oxygen. Now simultaneously what happened, the environment has a UV rays presence. UV rays, some of UV rays from the sun which is coming up, they break up the what, they break up the oxygen molecule into nascent oxygen, means ki single oxygen atom, which goes and attacks the another oxygen in the environment and form the O3, which is stable compound, not able to be broken down by the UV rays. So what happened, the ozone layer started forming up like that way. So this is what has been told over here. Then okay, we understand that the cell was there. Those cells that forms, we said that they were primitive kind of a cell, so they will be what, prokaryotic cells. Till now eukaryotic cell has been not formed. Until now what, the bacteria would be the most abundant organisms, and those bacterial organisms that were there, they are what, they can make their food by the two different ways. Either they will be chemosynthetic or they will be photosynthetic. Photosynthetic is further of two types, whether they are using hydrogen sulfide or whether they are using the water as a resources. All these examples are still present on planet Earth for our research purposes. Let's come to the eukaryotic cell, how that forms. Now in the primitive environments, the prokaryotes that were present over there, they modified with the changing environment. And one such modifications is a very classic example of that master and slave kind of a thing. So what happens, certain of the photosynthetic bacteria which were using, we have chlorophylls and using it, they have been engulfed by these eukaryotic cells. These eukaryotic cells, once they have been engulfed by that, then they didn't digested them. They tell them that I will give you shelter, you make what, food for me. Okay, same, they take up the mitochondria also in their cell and said that I won't destroy you, you make ATP for me, which is my most requirements. So those things were there. So now it is believed that the first living eukaryotic cell must be 1.5 billion years ago. Their nucleus becomes different, their organelles develops, and they evolved into protista, plant, fungi and animalia, which you already know, but we considered it from the protista there will be development, from the prokaryotes bacteria there will be development of protista, and from protista all the three develops. Okay, so remember this thing, and on that basis what comes up, this whole thing comes up, the fossil records. And it tells us that when we are digging the soil, we are finding what? We are finding that initially we have the things present of what? Of the dinosaur. But as we keep on going downwards, we are seeing more simpler organisms present inside. And after a certain layer of the earth digging up, we realized that nothing has been formed. So we did what we have certain ways, and if you know that from the chemical kinetics, there is called as carbon dating, which depends upon the half-life of the molecule, radioactive half-life of the molecules which are present in all of our organisms. Okay, so they checked it out their age, and they come up with this timeline that everything started from here at around 2.5 billion, like 4.6 billion years ago. Okay, and then these are the different eras or periods. So these are the eras, and this is the different periods in which these different organisms were present. So you can go and refer to these things, and these are the fossil records accordingly present to us. So we have divided our whole geological time scale into different era, periods, and epochs. So eras are the biggest thing. So we have total what? We have total 3 eras. Okay, that we will remember. One is the Cenozoic era. Currently we are living in the Cenozoic era. We have Mesozoic era. We have a Paleozoic era. And before that we have a Precambrian era also present. So if we see from the latest to the old, we're going to be seeing the organisms. So if you have studied the plant kingdom and animal kingdom in the chronological orders, like for example in case of animal kingdom, the first phylum you were studying, what? It's a porifera. So porifera comes first, so it will come up at the lower angle over here, whereas the last you studied about the chordatas, in that also mammals, they will come at the top also. So that is the chronology. If you have learned that chronological order of the organisms in that chapter, in these 2 chapters, this thing for you understanding is very easy. Okay, just remember the chronology, nothing much. So more complexity is keep on coming up. So Cenozoic era, Mesozoic era, and the Paleozoic era, and the Precambrian era. Then we have, this is the timeline which is given, which is not important for you. Geological time is what the next thing, that is the periods. So in Cenozoic era, we have 3 different periods. Currently, we are living in the Quaternary period, which is called as Age of Man, because we are the most dominant species over here. Then comes the Neogene and the Paleogene. Okay, then epochs is there. In Quaternary, which is the Age of Man, there is what? Holocene and Pleistocene. So in the Holocene is what, where the first human civilizations were seen. In the Pleistocene, it was Ice Age time. After Ice Age only the human sapiens, Homo sapiens came up. Then we have in this Paleocene, Monocene, Oligocene, Eocene, Paleocene. Okay, those things are the different epochs that is being present. Same comes at the Cretaceous period. This is called as Age of Dinosaur. Dinosaur would be the most abundant. We have the Jurassic period. Okay, then we have the Triassic period. Sorry, the Cretaceous period is not the Age of Dinosaur. The Jurassic is the Age of Dinosaur. This is the Cretaceous period where they actually becomes extinct. Okay, almost got extinct by this time. Okay, then Permian period is there. Okay, we have after Permian period we have the periods which you have to remember, that is Devonian period, Silurian periods, Ovidian periods, and Cambrian periods, according to what these periods are reflecting to you. And those gonna think like what it is reflecting, these things. The Devonian period is for the fishes, Silurian period is for the corals. Okay, so those things you should remember, because this question came in 2024 examination about that. They give certain periods, they said that age of this match the following kind of a thing. So that question has been there, so this is important for over here. Okay, if you didn't understand this, I will make a very good short out of it so you can enjoy that thing. After this, like in your book, okay, NCRT, this things has been just told like this only, but this thing has to be continued up to the plants and the animal evolution point of view. And for that you have to go to the last topic of your NCRT, that is a brief account of evolution. In this topic you will be continuing this thing. So the NCRT has made it jumbled up the whole thing. I am helping you out in making it a right sequence of learning it. So first we're going to be learning about the plant evolution. Okay, in the plant evolution, if you remember about the plant kingdom, so what is the first thing we studied about? The algae. After algae we studied about bryophytes, then pteridophytes, gymnosperm, and the angiosperms. So let's just make it like that way. So first would be what? There will be the algae. So the algae is over here. Okay, let me just try to explain this whole thing. The written up part is just the explanatory only. Okay, so if you remember this, then the most of the questions would be done for you. It will take certain time for you to remember this diagram, but the question answering would be much easier. So algae would be the first one. So these are what here the comes the your green ancestors, the algae. So this chlorophyte ancestor. So if you remember about the algae, you might have studied about the three divisions of the algae. What are they? Sorry, three classes of the algae. What are the chlorophyte, phycophyte, rhodophyte? Chlorophyte ancestors. So they are talking about what? Algae. From algae, what comes up the next? The next is the bryophytes. So if you see over here, this line goes and this yellow lines comes over here. One line goes over here, but one line comes like this. And can you see that here what is written? Bryophytes has been written. In your NCRT also it's given up. So from this, from algae only, the next thing would be what? The next we said about bryophytes. So bryophytes came. But if you see that this line came up, but where? It opened over here, and till now also it's present. It's telling two things. First of all, it's opened up here means it's opened up in what? In the era of Paleozoic. So if someone will ask like bryophytes comes in which era? Paleozoic era. First question. Second, so I'm writing the question also. This is the first question. Question number 1. Which era? Then it comes the value in which period. The period is the Carboniferous period. So second question is also from here only. From whom it comes up? From algae, chlorophyte ancestors. Clear? Moving on, and they are still present. Look, it's saying that it's a quaternary period and still it's showing up, which is telling us what? That it's still available on the planet Earth. Coming up from chlorophyte, the next thing would be what? The next thing would be the Trachophytes ancestors. Trachophytes are what? Tracheids are present in it. That is basically what? They are basically nothing, but these are the ancestors of the pteridophytes. So pteridophytes comes up over here, and if you see over here, there comes these things. These two different types of organisms. One is these are the lycopods. One is the herbaceous lycopods, one is the abhorrent lycopods. So if you see that they open up in the Silurian period itself, and all of these two things are before Silurian period also. Okay, means before the Paleozoic periods also they have been there. So they comes as first, what comes in the Silurian period? Zoster phylum was came up. Zoster phylum. Okay, then the next thing that they will be asking you up, like they diverges into two different types of further classes. That was the herbaceous lycopods and the zooxanthellae, and the abhorrent. The abhorrent becomes what? Extinct. In which time it becomes extinct? By the end of Paleozoic era or by the end of the Permian period. So this comes to be the next question. Okay, this is the fourth one. Who gave these two of them? Zoster phylum. Who is still available? Herbaceous lycopods are still available. Now coming up to the major thing again, that this means the Rhina type and the Phylophytum. Rhina and the Phylophytums both are what? Pteridophytes. Okay, so if I have to write it up also, this is what? Algae. This is what? Pteridophytes. Coming up back, that from the Rhina, Phylophytums, and from this Phylophytums, this Spinopsidas, which are also pteridophytes. Horsetails have been there. Ferns are there, which is also what? Pteridophytes are there. Then we have the ginkgos. Ginkgos came just after ferns. So ginkgos are what? Here we come to know that this is also the chronology in which they are coming up. The first comes this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and the least advanced is over here. That is also the question. Then what? From this ferns comes. After ferns, ginkgo comes. This is from the gymnosperm started upcoming. So over here, what becomes? This is, okay, wait. This to this is the gymnosperms. Okay, this to this is what? Your pteridophytes. So these are also the extra informations which you have to remember and understood. Then ginkgo is the primitive of all the gymnosperm. That also we call it. This is what? A primitive type of an organism or the plant in the gymnosperm. Then what? From here the conifers comes. You know that where they are opening up, there they comes up. Okay. Then we have the genitals. Okay. Then these, if you remember about these genital things, what you remember, you know that these genitals are what, they still have certain of the feature of the angiosperms, about the vessels and all those things. Okay, so these are the most advanced, so they were more closer to it. And then we comes up the progymnosperms, which are seeded ferns. So here there is what, cycus has the seeds present and this angiosperms are there. And if you see that, which comes first, dicotyledon, then comes what, monocotyledons. So dicot comes first and monocot comes later. So this is the most advanced, and this is most the primitive over here. So if the scale is present from here to here, you can also find that also in this chapter or in this diagram. Okay, I hope this thing about the plant kingdom is understood to you. Okay, so all the questions I have tried to commit up. Okay, so 7th, question number 8, question number 9th, question number 10th, question number 11th. Okay, chronology is also being given to you. So if they give it to you like, tell that correct sequence. So chlorophyce, I'm just giving one example. Comes the trachophyte, comes the rhina, comes the xylophytum, comes the progymno, comes the seed ferns, comes the dicot, and simultaneously another one is comes the monocot much later. Okay, so I hope this thing is understood to you, and this is all about the plant evolution. And the next thing that we're going to be coming up is the animal evolution. Okay, so animal evolution is, in animal cases, what basically happened is that animals, the first cell, basically the first cell is not considered as anything. Okay, so the first cell was appeared around 2000 million years ago. MYA means million years ago. Okay, but the life begins like later on, the life, if someone will ask like where it begins in the water, because the prebiotic soup which we have talked about. And the first organisms are believed to be plant, because plants are what, photoautotrophs, and they are the first one, like they actually invaded the land. We are coming on to the animals things, but before animals, what were present, plants were present on the land, and on them only herbivores and all those organisms were present, and that's how the chain actually formed. Now invertebrates were the one. Invertebrates are what, which do not have the vertebral column. Okay, so all those things like from porifera to all of those things, they were first present, and they were evolved around 500 million years ago. So million years ago could be written as MYA. Later in the Ordovician periods, this was the age of invertebrates when they were most numerous, and we get the their depositions all shows, because there are multiple catastrophic climatical events that took place on the planet Earth, and currently we are having our 6th mass extinction, and this is because of the human efforts, or I must say that that's very sarcastically to say that the human efforts, but they are actually what, the human actions which are paying that off. Now later on, what happened, these invertebrates initially their forms what, their form there comes the vertebrates also. So vertebrates initially were what, if you have studied the all the vertebrates, we have divided into the two major types, protochordates and the vertebrates, right? Now the protochordates have tunicates and the cyclostomes, marine, completely marine. Moving on to the marine or the freshwater. Okay, that's would be the better word used for them. And we have the vertebrates, where we have two divided, that the pisces and the tetrapods. The pisces has again the fishes all over there. Among these fishes, one such fish is the jawless fish, that is Aegonatha, which evolved around 350 million years ago. And it is believed that it is extinct. But recently in 1938, the same fish has been found in the coast of the South Africa. Coast means the where the beach is there. Okay, so at the coast of South Africa, we found this beach. We got this beach by the fishermen, and that fish is the coelacanth, which is Latimeria, which is believed to be extinct but still present. But what is the quality about these fishes? So these fishes are believed to be the first one who actually came on the these are the same kind of prototypes which came on the land walked on the land, and they survived. They are assumed to be the first one, although their story is very problematic, because when these fishes were there, since they have what lobed fin. Lobe means their fins are not small, they are lobed, so they are little not able to like what do we say, that move faster or something like this. So they come onto the ground on the land, and as they come on the land, what happened, that on the land they were since they are able to walk but slower, but they are being later on being the prey of the other animals also, so they again go back, so they're not much helpful to them. But yeah, they were believed to be the first one who came on the land. Okay, so they have what rounded base, tail fin, rounded fins were there, lobed fins were there, so that they can actually move. And they are still like same, means the evolution didn't happen in their case. They are still the same the way they were at that time. That's why we call them what we call them, living fossils. And from them only we say that since they are coming into the land, going back into the water and to and fro, it is believed that the amphibians comes from them only. And late Devonian period, it is characterized by the appearance of first true land vertebrates, that is amphibians, as called as stegocephalia, and the earliest known is Ithiostica, and they become extinct and later on evolved into what modern amphibians. Later on reptiles came into the picture. So if you see about the reptiles, this is their story. Early reptiles were available before or close to the Carboniferous period, and they forms two different divisions. One is Sauropsidas, and that is Synapsidas. Let's see that this Sauropsida, it leads to formation of all of this. So means just remaining the last of them, all of them has been formed by what? Sauropsidas. So how you will remember it? SA or SY, Synopsida. So sorry, A comes first. So all these Sauropsidas were the one link. Synapsida will be the later last thing that mammals gonna be forming up by that. So this Sauropsida forms what? Your turtle. They form lizard. They form snake. And lizard and snakes forms during which time? During the time of the Jurassic. In between Jurassic and Jurassic period. They forms tuatars. They forms the thecodons. Okay, later they forms dinosaur which become extinct. They form crocodile which is still available, and they even forms the birds. Whereas Synapsida, they forms the other branch of the mammals, which is the Salorsis, Trirapsid. They become extinct, and finally the mammals, which were the more mammal-like characters, they forms from the reptiles. So it is believed that from the reptiles only mammals and the birds both came from them only, means we came from same, our ancestor and the birds ancestors are the same thing. Isn't it very fascinating, to be honest? A little bit. Okay, so we can say that we are more evolutionary closer to the birds or to the reptiles? To the reptiles. Okay, then reptiles are the first true land animals, because they don't need any water. Like amphibians need water for their replication, for their reproduction, but they don't. So they have what? Internal fertilization is there. Even they do not need water to be there. Their eggs, fertilized zygotes, to be there, because they have what? Amniotic fluid present in the membrane, which keep it, if their young ones hydrated, do not get them dehydrated. So eggs used to be like the snakes lays eggs, birds lays eggs, and we directly gave to the young ones. So we have those things. Then presence of epidermal scales, which also help us to keep our body hydrated. Chlorotic scale legs, what are they? We will learn it in the end about those things. So some land in reptiles actually goes back to the water also and evolved into fish-like reptiles like ichthyosaurs around 200 million years ago. And from them only maybe possibly the other mammals diversifications like whales and all those things taken place. And the major question is that how did this dinosaur is extinct? Because it seems like one of the very big organisms. It's not a smaller organisms, and such a big organism, if it goes away, it makes us a concern in our head. What are the concerns? So first of all, it was believed that around 65 million years ago, okay, dinosaurs suddenly disappear from the planet Earth, and one possible explanation is called that because of the cooling environment and drying of the atmosphere, because atmosphere becomes really different over the period of a time, so they can't survive. Some even believe that dinosaurs, being the cold-blooded temperature, cannot adapt to the cold temperature because their body temperature, because cold-blooded organisms means what, their body temperature fluctuate with the temperature, and they won't able to survive in the cold environment which started taking a place after that time. Some even felt that they might have evolved into birds, okay, and there are certain plant eaters was could not eat the plants of the new kind because of the tough leaves and all those things, evolution that took place. Food scarcity, unsuitable temperature and climatic conditions is responsible for their disappearance. And after the disappearance of the dinosaur, the most abundant organism becomes what, mammals. And initially the mammals were what, they give directly birth to the young one. They are more protected compared to laying the egg and then keeping the things. So they are what, sense, they are better in sensing the dangers and avoiding the dangers and quickly taking the actions and safeguard this. So survival of them increases. So mammals diversified and they becomes more over there. And different places similar looking like hippopotamus, horse, bear, rabbit kind of occurs in South America. When the continental drift happened and South America joins with the North America fauna, they actually overpowered the South American fauna and they completely destroyed it. But still the similar kind of fauna which was not able to be destroyed by the placental mammals, those things you might have studied in the animal kingdom. So there we have what, we have the placental and the marsupials. Marsupials are the ones which got carried away by in the South America by the North American placental mammals. Same happens everywhere, but since there are certain places where these things didn't take place because there was no connection between the placental mammals area and the marsupials, which leads to what, marsupials being able to diversify and evolve in a different lineup it itself. And that thing is what seen in case of Australia. Okay, so those things has been told you over here, which we will be learning slowly. And if someone will ask like how the first mammal looked like, they're very true, small mammals were like rat kind of a thing was there present. So this thing is very important to understand. With this we have understand a brief account of evolution also, and this is the correct way of learning this chapter. The last thing is that how the human came into the picture, that we're going to be doing at the end only, because that's a totally a different story itself. Now the next video that going to be coming up that would be on the next topic, that how, what are the evidences of what we have said that are taking place. So next video is super important. Please come and watch that. And if you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends, because sharing is caring, and I know that evolution is toughest chapter for all of you. So let's just try to make it easier, fun, and let's fall in love with the learning overall again. After this, if you need the notes, you can get it from the Telegram. The Telegram link will be in my descriptions probably, or on all or else on the on the WhatsApp channel also, where the link of my notes would be provided to you, so you can directly download these notes which are available on here. More than that, if you want to learn with me for your NEET, for your board examination, if you're not sure about your centums and 360 in NCRT, NEET, as well as for the any other subjects, for biology specifically, you could took up my course also. For that details, you have to visit my Instagram and directly contact with me on the DM over there, and you can follow that for the instant quick referrals. And I come up with a really good content on the Instagram, especially the page chlorophyll_classes. Well, that's all for this video. So over and out, and don't forget to subscribe.